racism. Did I scare you? Well, I should have. If no one's ever told you this before, racism is bad. And it isn't a new issue either. It's been going on for centuries. Some say since the beginning of time. Ever since two people had two different shades of skin, there have been problems. And as long as racism has been around, there have been a myriad of attempts to spread the message that no matter what the color of your skin is, we're all human. Except for people who chew their fingernails. You people are animals. If you're that hungry, just grab a damn Snickers, man. And one of those attempts at spreading an anti-racism message is the subject of today's video, a little television series by the name of Black White. Black White was an American reality television series that aired on FX in March of 2006. Produced by Ice Cube, yes, that Ice Cube, the series sought to resolve the racism crisis that has been plaguing the world since its inception. So how would the show seek to stop racism? Well, it's all too simple, really. The show took two families, a black family and a white family, and forced them to trade races for around 5 weeks. And how would they do that? Well, by using Hollywood special effects, makeup some might call it. As a matter of fact, the makeup used in this series actually won the show an Emmy in 2006. Must have been some pretty stiff competition that year. Both families were made up of 3 people, 2 parents and a teenaged child. The white family was represented by the Wurgles. The matriarch Carmen, her partner Bruno, and their daughter Rose were white middle-class suburbanites from Santa Monica, California. And the black family were represented by the Sparks family. Father Brian, Mother Renee, and their teenage son Nick were a black middle-class family from Atlanta, Georgia. Now, it probably comes as no surprise, but this show was not very well received. Critics said that the show achieved the opposite effect of what it was intending to do, and it actually reinforced the racist stereotypes that it was attempting to disprove. Nevertheless, I want to watch this show for myself and make my own judgment. So I binged all 6 episodes of this series to answer the question, is it really racist? And who better than me, cause, you see, I'm something of a racism professional. The first episode introduces us to the families as they take a spin in their makeup for the first time. Now listen, I know that this makeup won an award, but this is insane. Who took this seriously? I mean, the moment the producers saw this for the first time, they should have said, all right, boys, shut it down. This isn't gonna work. I mean, they go all out on this makeup, don't get me wrong, but it just looks like a bad Chappelle Show skit. The only one who kind of looks passable is Rose. I mean, that's some of the best blackface I've ever seen. And trust me, I've seen a lot. It's right up there with RDJ and Tropic Thunder and that one episode of Always Sunny that's been banned on Hulu. Hulu, grow a pair. Show us the racist episode. Hell, they even gave Rose big-ass hoop earrings, which is certainly a choice. Also, as soon as Rose gets into makeup, she starts swiveling her neck when she talks, and I just think that's a problem. Brian takes the camera crew around his block and shows them how diverse his neighborhood is.
White family here, Vietnamese here, white here, Mexican here. Very diverse. We're just like the UN, baby.
Diversity. What is this? New woke city? The capital of woke-contin? Right smack dab in the middle of the woke states of America? Now, Bruno has got to be the whitest person I have ever seen. Just listen to this guy talk.
Being a former basketball player, I always thought how nice it would be to be able to jump, get off the ground, leap, and slam dunk like these guys can. And there's no doubt about it. Blacks are superior.
Also, Bruno parks in a handicap spot, and that is either highly illegal or explains a lot about Bruno. So Brian is white for the first time in his entire life. So what does he decide to do? Well, go golfing in Burbank, obviously. Golfing, a sport that Brian says is predominantly white. Let's just forget that the greatest golfer of all time is a black man. I mean, who could possibly forget John Daly? The families arrive at the house for the first time and get acquainted with their new living quarters. The families then sit down at the dinner table and discuss the differences between black people and white people. Carmen says that black people are always high-fiving each other. Bruno says that they walk different. Brian shows Bruno how to dap up. And Renee says the white women are always asking too many questions. And that one, I agree. I agree with that one. White women, why are you always doing this? Bruno and Carmen go to an all-black meeting to discuss racism, and oh my god, they stick out like a sore thumb next to actual black people. Somebody better call an emergency meeting, cause there's an imposter among us. The people in this meeting all talk about their experiences with racism throughout their lives, and there are some very powerful stories here. All Bruno and Carmen have to do is shut up and listen. But of course, they can't do that. Bruno chimes in and tells a fake story about how he was a doorman at a disco and people would call him the N-word all the time. What?
Yeah, I used to work as a doorman at a disco, and if somebody came up intoxicated or didn't have the right dress on, they say, come on, or a lot more hostile than that. And I just, yeah, that's right.
Now I want you to think about how fucking crazy this is. This is a white man in blackface in a room full of black people saying the N-word. Dude's got some balls. You gotta give him that. Brian applies to be a bartender in an all-white neighborhood in hopes of listening to white people talk while they're drunk. Cause as we all know, when you're drunk, you're the real you. Also, I just noticed that Brian has a mustache when he's white, but not when he's black. And, I'm offended. Brian asks one patron at the bar how he feels about the neighborhood, and the guy goes on to say how it's an all-white city, so they don't get a lot of problems, just your basic racist bullshit. What's really important is that this bar serves Miller High Life, the champagne of beers, and also apparently the alcohol drink of choice for racist people. I need to clean out my fridge. Rose joins a slam poetry group and talks about being scared of trying something new because she doesn't want to fail. Sweetheart, listen, you're a white girl pretending to be black around black people. Fear is no longer a concept to you. Bruno goes to a car dealership looking for some of this racism that he's been hearing about, but feels like no one's treating him any different than when he was white. So Bruno comes to the very logical conclusion that racism doesn't exist. Also, with the makeup on, Bruno looks like he's melting in the sun. Seriously, someone needs to get him inside quickly. He looks like a scoop of chocolate ice cream melting on a hot summer sidewalk.
So far, I'm kind of waiting for somebody to go, hey,
Now I took the liberty of censoring these N-words for the sake of the YouTube algorithm, but I need you guys to listen to me. He put some fucking stank on this one, alright? Full hard R with a twang. Nick wants to do something that only white kids do, so Rose takes him to etiquette school. Why are all the white activities in the show boring as hell, like golf and etiquette school? Get this kid a bong rip in a 2009 Call of Duty lobby. Stat! Brian and Bruno go out together to try and find a little bit of racism for Bruno to experience. Brian points stuff out to Bruno that he thinks is racist, but Bruno refuses to acknowledge it. And this is where the big conflict of the show comes from. Bruno refusing to accept that racism exists versus Brian, a black man who has experienced racism throughout his entire life. In episode 2, the families meet with a dialect coach to help them better emulate the opposite races' speaking patterns. During the session, Carmen jokingly says, "Yo, bitch," to Renee, which obviously bothers her. Renee says that she hates that word, but Carmen excuses it, saying that she thought that all black women use that as a term of endearment. And this argument continues throughout the entire series. Bruno and Brian go to a bar, and Bruno goes fishing around trying to find a racist person. He even asks the bartender if she would be with a black man, even though they are notorious for not sticking around. What? This cracker's insane. Brian says that everyone at the bar was very open-minded. Everyone except for Bruno. It's almost like Bruno is the racism that he is refusing to accept exists. It's a little bit like the pot calling the kettle African American. Renee goes to the bar that Brian's been working at to talk with some of the white residents of the city, and she meets one of the most outright racist people I've ever seen.
A lot of black people come to this bar?
I've only seen maybe one black person. America is formed by white people.
Right.
So that's the way it is. Good or bad,
Right.
just the way it is. So when people come here, that's what they should want to be. If not, go someplace else. They're proud of being dumb.
Like, this dude has to be an actor, right? Because who the fuck says that to a black woman? Bruno and Carmen go to a black church, and goddamn, does this look fun. As someone who grew up going to a Southern Baptist church, this looks so lively. My church experiences were having a sweaty 90-year-old COPD patient stumble his way through a Bible verse in a trailer with no AC. This looks like a damn party compared to that bummer. Renee and Carmen go clothes shopping together, and Carmen buys some traditional African garb, dashikis I've heard them called. When she shows them to Brian, he jokes that Bruno and Carmen might as well just dress up like Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben. Rest in peace to a couple of goats. Rose goes to a party at one of her new friends' houses, or as black people say, cribs. I don't know if I can keep that one in. At the party, she starts to feel guilty about lying to them about her true identity. So the next day, she comes clean to the group and reveals herself to be a white girl. And all I can think of is them being like, oh, so that explains all the cameras. Rose invites her poetry class to her home to see the real her, and they are shocked. So shocked that it causes Rose to hit her head on the camera. After showing the group the real her, they accept Rose for who she is, and they all decide to have a slam poetry sesh right on the spot. And who else but Carmen to jump her white ass in the cypher and say some of the most heinous shit I've ever heard.
The immediacy of your love and the availability of your heart and a powerful black man's physique and sweetness. And I don't get you. You're off the charts. Are you gay or straight? Moved by the beauty of this magnificent black creature?
Hey, quick tip, big dog. Maybe don't call black people creatures. You're doing too much. All you've got to do is not be racist. Is it really that hard? And after her little feature, everyone gets really uncomfortable and decides to leave for some reason. Also, if you want another reason to not like Bruno, look at the way this motherfucker is sitting. Hey, buddy, what are you doing? Stop it. You look like an elderly cat trying to clean itself. You look like you're trying to get your nuts unstuck from the side of your leg without anyone noticing. Guess what? Everyone notices.
And I'm freaked out. I do not know if they're going to accept me.
The families get into an argument about Carmen's unique word choice, and she has a total freak out about having to walk on eggshells to be politically correct.
It was not about being politically f***ing correct.
I know.
And it was not about choosing that goddamn f***ing words. I'm really upset. No, I am. Do not correct me right now. I mean it.
God, I hope this woman's still alive. She would absolutely thrive in today's political landscape. Has she seen Trump? Carmen goes to a live chat room called Ask Deanna, a show about black people talking about problems in the black community. Also, what the fuck is a live chat room? Is this what we did before Twitch? Carmen gets to know Deanna and they go out to a Black History Museum together. Carmen looks at Deanna as a black woman who can hold her hand and show her the culture. Except that's what Renee was for. And you called her a bitch. Nick and Rose go out together to get some lunch, and Nick tells Rose that he got kicked out of school for carrying his friend's pocket knife. When Rose asks Nick why his friend had a pocket knife, Nick says, "'Cause he's Asian. All Asians have knives." What the f*** is that, Nick? Well, that's a little bit of subtle racism. Maybe the show should have been called Black, White, Asian. No, the makeup for that one probably wouldn't have been a little bit harder. Nick goes behind his parents' back and buys a $150 watch, and this really pisses them off.
So how much was your watch?
$150.
$150?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's going back.
Where the damn receipt? Oh, you have lost your damn
I'm thinking
mind.
that's about $20-$30.
Go get your receipt right now.
It was my money.
Put the damn camera down and go get the receipt. $150 for a damn watch. What for?
It was my money.
Do you really want me to knock your ass out right now? I don't give a damn about it being your money. Do you have a job?
No.
Well, what's the point of you having a $150 watch? For what? Why? Explain it to me. What was the purpose?
Look at Bruno listening to this conversation. It's like he's never heard this before. It's like he's watching a nature documentary. It's called Punishing Your Kids, you fucking idiot. Brian takes Nick to return the watch, and then they go mini golfing together. A sport that Brian is apparently really good at. I mean, look at this hole-in-one. Bruno is still refusing to accept racism in the world, so he and Carmen go where they can find it. A cowboy bar, complete with country music and Confederate flags galore. Carmen feels the racism in the bar, but Bruno still denies it, just saying that, oh, well, maybe those people were just assholes. Carmen says that Bruno is very stubborn and will not let anything change his mind. Then she cries, thinking about racism. Carmen goes to Deanna's house and comes out to her, telling her the truth, that she's just an old white woman. Deanna is shocked, but says that it kind of makes sense, because when Carmen first came to Deanna's house, she didn't look in the shower or medicine cabinet when using the bathroom. Deanna says that this is something that all black people do when going to someone's house for the first time, and I gotta be honest, I don't know if that's true. Now, this may come as a surprise, but I don't have very many black friends. And of the black friends that I do have, I sure as hell don't let them in my house. Also, Carmen once again cries, thinking about racism. Rose and Nick invite their etiquette class over to the house to hang out, and Nick reveals to them that he's actually a black kid. The group have a lot of questions, and Nick even tries to get this one girl to say the N-word, and it's very funny.
Only time anyone's called you a mean name.
I can't say the word.
Just go ahead and say it.
No.
It doesn't bother. It doesn't.
All the white kids are looking at his bedroom and his clothes like they're relics from an old alien civilization. Like, come on, guys, they're just clothes. Act like you've been here before. Nick goes out with a couple of the white kids, and they start saying the N-word around him. Like, full-on hard R.
And the expression, shit, I don't think a white guy does that.
For this. You just said the N-word.
All my black friends, they wave canes around. They're like, it's gonna be a like that. I haven't said it in a long time.
This was you just said it like 4 seconds ago.
All right, let me get out of my system.
I'm serious, man. White kids in 2006 were a different breed. Nick tells his parents about the situation, and they are ashamed that he didn't correct the kids to not say that word around him. This is when Brian realizes that he's been spending too much time trying to get Bruno to open his eyes and see the world for what it is, when he should have been focusing on doing that with his son. Bruno meets with a successful black musician named Fernando Polam to learn how black people can become successful. Fernando is offended by Bruno for thinking that all black people come from broken homes and the ghetto. Then Bruno leaves the meeting still not learning anything. What's it gonna take? Rose goes to dinner with her poetry class and she's still in blackface. Why? They all know she's white. She talks about how much she's learned about the black community and how she's become jealous of the kinship, how strangers call each other brother and sister. Later on, she confides in Carmen that she feels sad that she'll never be able to experience that for real. Then she cries thinking about racism. Brian takes Nick to a black barber shop to learn a little bit more about the culture before his final etiquette dinner. At the dinner, Nick shows up without his makeup for the first time and tells the white kids that they shouldn't say the N-word around him anymore, because now he understands the power and meaning behind the word. Wow, one afternoon in a barber shop and this kid's become a natural Malcolm X. After everyone is home from dinner, Bruno gathers the family in the living room and shows them a music video he made, a rap video for the middle-aged white man. And this is where the show goes off the deep end for me. I know all reality shows are fake to an extent, but this is so far beyond the realm of possibility. No way that a real human being would unironically make this. This is up there with that one song that Ben Shapiro and that one crackhead made. Like, this is legit cringeworthy. Carmen and Renee go to a black hair salon, and Carmen is so fucking awkward. She even asks one of the women if she can touch her hair. And if that wasn't bad enough, she starts petting the woman and calling her adorable.
Hi, Carmen.
Hi, Tila. Love your hair. Can I touch it?
Yes. It's a little dry right now.
Oh, it is too adorable.
Hey, Okay, bitch, she's not a fucking horse. Stop doing that. Bruno and Brian go to an all-white neighborhood and fake a car breakdown to see if any strangers would be willing to help two black people. Plenty of people stop to help, and Bruno once again takes this as racism doesn't exist. Brian's frustrations with Bruno continue to grow, so he takes Bruno to hang out with a couple of black friends and play dominoes. And one of the men at this hangout are drinking beer out of a can with a straw, and I've never seen that before. Bruno leaves the house saying that he's getting uncomfortable, and Brian accuses him of racism. Bruno denies this accusation, saying that he isn't uncomfortable around black people, just the ones that talk loud and smoke and are black. After multiple attempts to befriend Carmen, Renee decides that it just isn't going to work out. So she tries to meet some new friends at Bible study and a knitting club, but neither of them work out. Renee finally attends a scrapbooking club and befriends the woman who runs it, Deborah, and she finds out that Deborah's white daughter is best friends with a little black girl. Renee stays for dinner, and she's shocked to see how similar white families are to black families. For the first time during this whole experience, Renee doesn't see race. She doesn't see color. She just sees a family, just like hers. She also makes note of how white people treat their dogs like their children, and yeah, we do that, don't we, puppy? Oh, I love you so much. Who's a good dog? Who's a good dog? Later on, Renee meets Deborah at a cowboy bar to learn how to line dance, a bastion of white culture. One white person at the bar starts talking so crazy about how all black people are violent gangbangers, blah, 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 blah. Renee holds her tongue, but is surprised to see the other white women in the group gang up on the guy and rightfully call him an ignorant idiot. Man, maybe these white bitches ain't so bad. The next day, Renee comes out to Deborah and tells her that she's actually a black woman pretending to be white to learn the difference between the races. Deborah accepts her, saying that it doesn't matter what color her skin was when they met. She met the real Renee, the mother, the wife, the human being. It would be kind of funny, however, if she revealed her secret and Deborah was just like, wait, hold on, you're a what now? Renee meets Deborah later that night at a restaurant for the first time as her true self. And in one of the few actual heartwarming moments of the series, the two laugh and joke about the stereotypes they've heard about each other's race. They bond and relish in the fact that none of the things they've ever heard about each other's races are true. And that's pretty fucking sweet, man. It really is. It's the final episode, and Brian and Renee go out for dinner together, alone in their white makeup. Brian notices a woman at the bar getting up to go to the bathroom and leaving her wallet completely unattended. Brian takes note of this, saying that no one has ever left their wallet unattended around him. And to be honest with you, that one got to me. To think that no one feels safe around you, that bothers me a lot. I'm someone who prides themselves on people being able to feel safe around them, especially women. It's why I drink so much diet soda. The aspartame keeps my body weak. You can't abuse a woman when you got brittle bone disease. Renee's concerned about Nick emulating what he sees in gangster rap videos, so she takes him to meet an ex-gang member named Kenny. Kenny talks to Nick about the street disease and how it's killing young black men all over the country. It's just a little bit of a Scared Straight scenario, except unlike Scared Straight, this seems to work. The final part of the project is to write a letter to each member of the family and read it out loud in front of each other. Everyone gathers around and talks about what they've all learned from the project, and there is one very distinct pattern. Everyone is calling out Bruno and Carmen. Even their own daughter calls them ignorant and closed-minded. Talk about a betrayal. Carmen decides to not read her letter out of frustration with how harsh everyone was on her. Also, Rose cries thinking about racism. Bruno and Carmen are upset that they were singled out during the meeting today, and Bruno says that it's bullshit that no one's learned anything from him. What would they learn from you, Bruno? How to have a strangely shaped head? How to sit like an overweight raccoon? How to be dumb? Bruno and Carmen attend Rose's final poetry performance in their black makeup. Rose performs her poem, and It's not great, but since it's a TV show, it gets a standing ovation. You know what they say, white can't write. The next day, the families decide to give it one last chance to get to know each other. Renee and Carmen go on a hike together, and Renee officially accepts Carmen and forgives her for calling her a bitch all the way back at the beginning of the project. Bruno and Brian play some basketball, and they recognize that they'll never be able to see eye to eye on the racism discussion, but they decide that they can still respect each other and coexist. On the final night of the project, the families gather everyone they have met throughout their journey. And during this gathering, ex-gangster Kenny gives a very powerful speech.
What I'm seeing here is, this is heavy. You know, where I come from, you don't see this. You know, whenever you're feeling like you're getting weak at what you're doing, you always be able to look back on it, man, and see some of the things that you was talking about, some of the things that was said to you. You know what I'm saying? So this right here is something that you'll be able to take with you for the rest of your life, man. So if we were to hear or see anything opposite of a strong future for you, man, we would be kind of upset. I would personally be upset that if you don't make it all the way, you should be able to get whatever God blesses you with, whatever's in your mind to have.
And unfortunately, Bruno doesn't talk at all, and that makes me sad. I was really hoping for one last N-word from the Brunster. The following day, the families pack up and prepare to say their final goodbyes. Rose is hopeful that racism will end, but is doubtful that it ever will. Carmen confides in the cameras that her perspective on race has changed entirely, and she looks at Bruno in a completely different light. Brian and Renee are confident that Nick finally understands what it truly means to be black, and Bruno admits that he hasn't learned anything from this project. I mean, damn it, Bruno, I was really holding out hope for you. The families share one last hug and say their final goodbyes, thus ending the experiment known as Black White. And with that, my final analysis. Is this show racist? Yes, kind of. Just a wee bit. And you don't have to watch the whole series to get that answer. Just the premise itself is fucking crazy. You are putting white people in black makeup in an attempt to teach them what it's like to be black. And by the way, speaking of makeup, I cannot tell you how much of this goddamn show is populated by B footage of the families in the makeup truck. It's constant, it's distracting, and it's bad. A question that came across my mind while watching this series, however, was, could you do something like this and it be done in a more positive light, where the message wasn't being overshadowed by some of the worst television that I've ever seen? And the answer to that is yes, you can, because it's already been done. And this is where I'm going to tell you the story of American journalist John Howard Griffin. John Howard Griffin, for lack of a better term, was a fucking badass. In 1939, John went to France with the intention of studying literature, but instead joined the French resistance during World War II as a medic. After that, he returned to the United States and enlisted in the United States Army Air Forces, not to be confused with the modern-day Air Force. While serving, he had an unfortunate bout with spinal malaria, which left him temporarily paraplegic for around a year. And as if that wasn't bad enough, he then went blind after being too close to a Japanese bomb explosion. He would remain blind for 11 years before waking up one morning in 1957 with his sight miraculously restored. Talk about a good morning, am I right? So what does this guy have to do with racism? Well, in 1959, Griffin decided to investigate the plight of African Americans in the South, where at the time, segregation was still legal. He did this by artificially darkening his skin with a cocktail of drugs, sun lamp treatments, and skin creams. He then spent around 6 weeks hitchhiking as a black man in the South. He went on to write about his journey in the 1961 novel Black Like Me. He described it as being extremely difficult and sometimes downright impossible to meet basic human needs, like food, shelter, and even toiletries. This dude couldn't even in a public restroom. The book became a bestseller, which turned him into a national celebrity at the time. During this period, he was met with major hostility and violent threats. It got so bad that he had to move his family to Mexico for around 9 months because people were hanging an effigy of his figure in his front yard. He went on to lecture on race relations during the early years of the civil rights movement, being one of the highest profile white voices to be talking about the difficulties in the black community. He was such a proponent that in 1975 he was almost beaten to death by the Ku Klux Klan, but luckily survived the violent encounter. This was a man who had no responsibility to stand up for what was right. It was a problem that, like many at the time, he could have just as easily ignored. It would have saved him and his family from violent threats and even physical harm. But he felt like it was his duty to get the word out. He wanted to educate the white world on how hard it was to be a black person during this difficult period in American history. And when you compare that story to this disaster, you can see how truly amazing his determination was. And because of that determination, I've been inspired to go through the same skin treatment so that I can talk about the plights of the black community. I've already started the pigment medication. As a matter of fact, if you look really closely, you can see that the pores are actually starting to... I'm so sorry. This is so rude of me. Just give me 1 second, okay? I'm sorry. Hello? Yes! Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, thank you so much. Yep, talk to you later. Yep, bye-bye. I have cancer. Something I hear people say all the time that really pisses me off is you couldn't make that today. You just couldn't make that today. Blazing Saddles would be ripped apart by the woke mob, blah, 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 blah. It's always so annoying and typically wrong. But this show might be the one true example. I mean, could you imagine this shit coming on Netflix right now? Right underneath Stranger Things? I don't think so.